a box office announcement that's ruining. That just if I saw that, I'd have been pissed.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week we have seen the Endgame for Avengers.
That's true. No spoilers.
Yeah,
no spoilers.
And judging by the box office numbers, everybody else has seen this movie. There's that. There and because of this, there are a few trailers for upcoming films, Men in Black and Gemini Man. Because honestly, there is not a lot of news at all this week, and more.
Yeah, it has been. Everything else has been drowned out this week. We were kind of crawling through Box Office Mojo's lists, and I was curious to see how Hellboy was doing, just because it just had such a narrow window to make any money, and it wasn't a very good film to begin with. We talked about that on the show, but it had a 91% drop off from the last weekend it was in theaters, and that's like huge. That's gigantic. Basically, it almost like it wasn't even in theaters this weekend at all. So it just goes to show you how dominating this film was the whole weekend.
Well, I mean, I think it also to just put that in a little bit of an indicator here. Every movie that came out this weekend that wasn't Avengers suffered massively. Not just Hellboy, but like Shazam is down 66%. The new movie that came out last weekend, The Curse of La Llorona, was down 71%. The only movie that didn't suffer, Mike, is Captain Marvel, which came in at second place this weekend. Believe it or not.
I would imagine there's a lot of people that were doing, back to back. Let's go catch the last one that came out, or I'm not going to be able to understand what happened in this one.
I'm surprised they could find it. I didn't see anything else in any other screening this weekend. And I'm really surprised because I actually went this morning, already at 10 o'clock this morning. I went to the movie, and I didn't know this, but they added a 9:30 a.m. showing to the same theater. Sold out.
Wow.
Sold out.
Our theater was doing like 2 a.m. showings on Thursday night. It was crazy. We left out a lot of our kind of like theater shop talk in our spoiler review cast because we just wanted to get right into the movie since it was so dense. But I had to wait until 10 p.m. to see this movie. And there was plenty of showings before it because now movies premiere at 6 p.m. on Thursdays when it used to be midnight way back in the day. So 10 p.m. isn't even considered early anymore. So unfortunately, right when we were walking into the movie theater, the 6 p.m. showing was getting out. So I saw all of these people flooding out of the theater, and I grabbed my wife and we did a spin over to the wall, and I was just stare at me right in the face and just start telling me anything. Just start talking, start rambling. I need you to distract me from all of these people that have just left the theater, and they're just going to be talking about this movie for sure. But so there is etiquette when you leave a movie theater. Don't just go start rambling. And then I realized we were by the arcade inside the movie theater, and then kids were filtering into the arcade. And I was like, oh no, teens, rotate more. It was wild. I had to do a lot of dodging there. I was pretty ridiculous, and I'm sure if anybody was watching me, why does that man have one finger in his ear? Because there was two people walking by me, and it's my wife was like, what are you doing? Take that out of your ear. And I was like, no, I can hear them murmuring.
Well, what you could have done, you always take headphones to the screening if you're going to be later than the first showing, and just listen to those or talk to the person you're with via a phone call, and then you'll drown out all the background noise.
Yeah, that's a smart idea.
Yeah.
We had to also settle with a 3D screening, which I wanted to do 2D because that's how I like to enjoy my films, but beggars can't be choosers, and the only theater I could get was a 3D screening. So our party bought a 4-pack of conversion glasses.
Yes, you mentioned that.
That converts a 3D film to a 2D film. And these glasses specifically worked with Real D 3D movies. So I don't know if they make 3D movies that aren't Real D. I guess maybe the IMAX 3D films aren't Real D.
There are about 3 companies that have different types of 3D technology. So, yeah.
Yeah, so luckily these worked with the film. I would say, I mean, overall, a 3D movie is supposed to be projected a little bit brighter than a normal movie because it has to go through that tint of the glass. So the 2D glasses made the movie just a hair darker than the 3D glasses did. So I guess the tint on it was a little stronger, but it wasn't too distracting. It wasn't that much of a difference. But I kind of got to pick how I got to enjoy the movie, which was kind of fun. Some people in my party wore the 2D glasses the entire time. I wore mine for basically the first 2 acts of the movie, and then I slipped on the 3D glasses for the last act, and I was like, man, this is great. This is perfect. This is exactly how I was able to kick the movie into another gear just on my own, and that was really great. But then I also I felt like I emotionally connected with you a little bit more, Chris, because the 2 fellows that were sitting next to me had the loudest movie theater snacks I've ever heard, and I know that's one of your biggest pet peeves at the movie theater. And absolutely no spoilers for this movie, but there are definitely parts in this film where it gets very quiet, like you're just getting very emotionally connected to just a conversation that 2 characters are having, and I hear just and they're trying to do that thing where they think if they open their snack slow, it won't be as loud, but they're just drawing out the noise. And then the guy next to me had one of those ices, so he was constantly moving his straw around to break up the ice, and I was like, "Oh God!"
Yeah.
So, movie theater snacks are now on my list of things I hate at the movie theater.
It's one of those things. Today when I went, it wasn't. I mean, there was a little bit of distraction. The guy beside me, the way he ate his popcorn was interesting. I've never seen this before. He reaches into his bucket or wherever this popcorn thing is, grabs a handful, and then tries to shovel the handful into his mouth while the hand is sideways. You know what I'm saying? So you're holding your hand out level in front of your elbow at the left, and he's just trying to shovel the thing into his mouth like this. And so all you hear is the popcorn rustling between his hand and his mouth as he's trying to inhale it. And I'm like, who eats popcorn like this? It's like trying to get a shovel. Your hand's a shovel and you're forcing it in there. Go half on that, and then it'll be easier to do this with less noise.
We live in a society, people. You need to remember that.
Yeah, and then when he was done, he would just take his popcorn buttery grease hand and just wipe his mouth across with it. I'm like, that's not helping you either, man. But overall, not too bad. Two showings so far this weekend.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you almost missed your very first showing.
Oh, I did.
If it wasn't for me, I wanted that thank you on the air, recorded live.
Something happened. I don't know if it was the time change or what. Bought my tickets for 6. Mike remembered this. I should remember this. I looked at my calendar. It said 7. I'm like, great, because it's just one of those auto things that auto adds to your calendar when you buy something like that. So I'm getting there, okay, 6. And you're like, oh, I think it's 6. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch, it is 6. So my in-laws had to come in from, they were driving on the way. They were going to eat first and go. So I ended up buying just food for everyone at the theater. And
that's gonna be expensive.
It wasn't too. I had some points, so it really wasn't too bad at the end of the day. But no, only one drink because 3 hour.
Ooh, yeah, we were liquid fasting on Thursday for sure together. I felt like I had a brother in arms of trying to avoid all liquid. This is the first time I've ever done this in my entire life of trying to avoid a drink. I know some people have done that. Pre-surgery, they tell you not to eat or drink anything, but usually you plan your surgery in the morning so you can drink again later. This was the whole day, and it was rough. As soon as the movie was over, I grabbed this water bottle that my wife had at the movie theater, and I just chugged it, and I was like, oh, I can celebrate now with all the liquid.
Yeah, and I'm proud to say I made the second showing without going to the bathroom as well.
Well,
I didn't think I could do both. Well, I've got to be severely dehydrated by this point in my life, so I've been chugging some water. But yeah, so we were able to. I missed a lot of we were maybe 18 minutes after the quote unquote start time of the movie at the IMAX. But trailers were still going on, and we still had several more when we got in there. So didn't feel like I missed a whole lot. Overall, though, I watched IMAX 2D. You're talking about the 3D. I watched IMAX 2D the first time, 3D regular the second time, and the 3D isn't that one. This one didn't bother me. It's not like one of those, oh my god, we're throwing the Captain America's shield in your face kind of scenarios. So overall, not horrible, but I can tell you I noticed the aspect ratio difference when coming off of an IMAX into this, because you don't get the full frame that the IMAX does when you go to any other theater, and you start to see the parts of the screen you're missing. Like, that's chopped a little lower than I remember it being.
I'm actually surprised that you were able to find a 2D IMAX screening. Those are a little hard to come across. Usually they're trying to squeeze as many dollars out of you as possible if you're going to IMAX, and they throw in that 3D premium as well. I'll have to do some Googling and see if I can find that.
Yeah, the 3D one's actually pretty rare here for the IMAX. I don't think I've seen a 3D IMAX in maybe a year or more. They'll probably do it on the ones they don't expect to make a lot of money out of, though. So, like, I'm fully expecting them to be like, you want to see Dark Phoenix, you got to watch it in 3D so we can get more money out of you. And I'm like, sons of bitches. Nobody wants to watch that to even begin with. So, but yeah, do you anything else this weekend other than watch this movie and think about this movie every time you close your eyes? And
I mean, I played.
Our first topic is Avengers Endgame, and we're already 10 minutes into it. So what else did you do this weekend?
I played a little friendly Smash Brothers tournament that I kind of technically won. The host of the party, who owns the game, owns a Switch, and is very adept at Smash Brothers, actually ended up winning. He fought me in the final round, but they bought prizes for everybody, and of course you can't award yourself a prize that you bought. So technically, I won through a process of elimination there. So that was cool. I bought my own Switch controller because I can't deal with the lag from old generation Wavebirds. I don't understand the new button layout on these new Switch Pro controllers. So I bought a yellow Pikachu branded USB GameCube controller. So it was well worth every penny I spent on it, and I love playing Smash. That game's fun. But I do have to say, I don't know if they've upped the percentage of items that show up in a match. Like, I know there's like light, heavy, normal items. So I'm pretty sure the house dealer put it on normal items. But I feel like if you have more than 2 people playing the game at any given time, there's just so much crap happening on the screen. I mean, I've been playing Smash since the very first version of it, and sometimes I still can't keep track of where my character is. So sometimes that gets a little difficult, but Smash is fun. But outside of playing Smash, all I can think about is Endgame still.
Yeah, it's a good thought process to have. Now, I've got to tell you, I did some adulting purchase yesterday, Mike. And this is gonna make me sound like real adult compared to all. Like, right now, I'm wearing my what's it, advanced suit hoodie right now, because you gotta wear it to the movie theater, because I really like it. But I ended up buying a weed whacker yesterday, a gas powered one at a Lowe's. So,
wow,
really,
Chris.
Really went out there. Well, to make it even sound more adulting, Lowe's had this thing. You text this number and you get a random dollar amount off a purchase, right? Most of them are $5. It's like $5 to $400. Most are like $5. I ended up getting with a $25 off one.
Nice.
And I was like, well, I can't let that go to waste today.
I absolutely have to buy a gas-powered weed whacker today.
Exactly. And then they had a deal for their spring stuff. If you buy this certain one or one over a certain dollar amount, you get a free attachment, which turns your weed whacker into either like a leaf blower or like an edger for your lawn. And I'm like, I feel like I'm like in Smash, but I'm doing a combo here. I'm like, I'm gonna buy this, get this for free, take my $25 off, boom, combo breaker right here. I'm walking out of Lowe's with all this fun stuff, and I feel like I'm ripping them off. But it was their deals, man. I'm just part of the party.
It sounds like it was an inevitability for sure.
Well, and I literally had that in the car as I was driving my way to a bar crawl for the TV show The Office, which, if you're friends with me, you've now seen my photo, and some people either understand it or don't understand it, and that's totally fine. I dressed up as Andy Bernard, I believe is the character's name, from the episode where they do a fun run for the rabies cure. And like I was telling Mike earlier, I walked out of a bar called Molly Malone's to thunderous applause because of how I went the full detail on this costume. Because Andy has chafing nipples that end up bleeding, and I brought red paint with me to put on the shirt. To slowly, over the night, it actually got lower and lower as I put more paint on. So it was a interactive costume.
That is dedication for a show that you're not a super fan of.
Not invested in it at all. We did not come out on top in terms of answering the questions either. So I'm not feeling too rough on it. So anyway, I was like, they were like, oh, you can't go too hard. You got Endgame in the morning, and Yes, I did, Mike. Yes, I did. Had another Endgame. So I guess we're gonna jump back into Avengers because we're just in it. We're just in it
Yes.
today. Again, no spoilers here. But if you have watched it and you want to listen to our review, our review episode is out and available on all streaming platforms for you to listen to.
I believe we talked for about 8 minutes, non-spoilers at the beginning of that. But I wanted to give people a heads up because I know some people out there might be saddled with like newborn children that they literally can't get away from to go see this film, or maybe even limitations of you can't even buy your ticket. Like all of your theaters are sold out. You know, maybe you just were in a coma the day the tickets went on sale and you just couldn't even get them. There is a lot of really mean people out there trying to spoil the movie. And after I saw the movie, I kind of went searching for how people were spoiling it because I just wanted to know how crafty these a-holes were. And they have compiled a singular square graphic with all of the big bullet points that happen in this film. Some of the text is written in black, some of the text is written in white, and it's on top of an orange to kind of like dark red gradient. So if you are scrolling through your feeds and you haven't seen this film yet and you see something along the lines of like a gradient square image with a bunch of like text on it and you're just like, well, what's this thing say? Just scroll past it if you haven't seen the movie yet. That is the spoiler image that people are sharing and they're being very, very mean. So avoid that.
You've got to be one of the few people in the world who typed in Avengers spoilers into Google and actually got what you were looking for once.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had been actively avoiding it for so long. I had just gone dark on social media for the past couple days. I just wanted to see what else was happening. I did what you did on Twitter. I put up all of these muted keywords, and I was just I was envisioning what was happening on the other side of my phone for those couple days. You know, kind of like like in Game of Thrones when those White Walkers are running at the wall. I was just imagining all of these things trying to break through my firewall. And I was like, I wonder what I'm missing on the other side of these muted words right now. So it was fun to remove all of those off and see all the superhero stuff flood back into my feed.
I do have an interesting story about our review episode. A friend and listener of the show, Patrick Foster, he was at my wedding. Has not got to see it yet. He's had some things come up and he had to not go to his showings and delay. And he gets to go this week, but he was just absentmindedly listening to our podcast.
Oh, no.
And he caught himself at the 8-minute mark wherever he's like spoilers, and then he's like, and then I can't snap back to reality and was like, oh no, I can't listen any farther.
Well, I can't believe that worked. I usually just assume people kind of are cognizant of what's going on, but I guess podcast apps have like autoplay, next episode, things like that. So man, I'm good to know that we doing that spoiler mark for a reason.
Yeah, and we were very, very made sure we announced it very, very loudly when we were doing as well.
Yeah, but Chris, you've seen the movie twice now.
Yes.
I've only seen it once. I definitely plan to see it again. So spoiler free, real quick, what are your thoughts on this little indie film that came out this weekend?
Well, I mean, if I've seen it twice, that means I really didn't like it. Why would you go to a movie multiple times and then I even have a third showing schedule? That's how much I hate watching. No, I'm kidding. I think it's a really good movie. I think there are 22 films across 11 years that are culminating in this, and if you haven't watched it or like on the fence on watching this movie, you should definitely not be. You should go out and see it, and hopefully you've seen a lot of the other movies to lead up to this. I mean, you don't have to watch all of them, but if you watch Infinity War, it's going to make a lot more sense before you jump into this movie for sure. So I know I talked to some people last night who had not seen Captain Marvel before they saw this, and they were still okay with it. So, like I said, you have to see them all, but I think Endgame is it's just a wonder. It's a miracle that this movie exists, and it actually turns out being coherent and thought out and just a great film at the end of the day. It had no right to work as well as it does, and it does, and just blows out of the water. And I don't think anybody else saw this movie except us this weekend. We'll talk about it here in a minute, but I know you definitely saw it. So what did you think of Avengers Endgame? Spoiler free. Spoiler free.
Avengers Endgame, spoiler free, is fan service the movie in the best way possible. I know a lot of people over the last few years with all of these comic book movies out, I feel like the word fan service has become a negative term. You know, that's something you say when they're just trying to cram something in the movie to please an audience to get their money, and just they're not worried about story or anything else. But this is where fan service is executed flawlessly and perfectly. And if it works even better when you have a background of loving all of these films, and also if you even have just like a slight love for comic books in general. You know, it just there's moments in this film where it feels like you're actually reading a comic book, because sometimes you feel like things can only ever be achieved like drawn, like because the world's too fantastical, you can never capture it on camera. But they were able to capture some amazing things in this film. It's amazing. I feel like it's two films kind of crammed into one. So I feel like if you're watching Infinity War and this one back to back, it's like you're watching three movies at once. It's insane. It's crazy. It's a wild ride. It feels a little bit like you're watching something historic. You know, nothing is ever gonna really achieve or what this film did. And if they're lucky enough to do it, they'll just be the second franchise that has done it. This is the first franchise that pulled this off. We've seen a lot of attempts. We've seen the Universal monster movies try to do this. We've seen DC still trying to pull this off. So you kind of just want to – it's weird. Like you want to give like Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers and all these other amazing creatives that have made these films like a handshake and a pat on the back. But at the same time, they've already been rewarded a million times over by other fans and also just their wallets. So I feel like I don't have to lift them up. You know, they're already doing pretty well. But man, when you really love this kind of stuff and you get a movie like this, it's just great. I've had a great weekend just thinking about this film and basking in it. I've seen a lot of people try to put up their hot takes. Everyone's got hot takes on the whatever is the hottest in pop culture in the news this week. So I've just been kind of rolling my eyes at some of them. It just feels like people just trying to capture this weird subset of people that just like to be mad at things. But yeah, I just had a great time.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see where the Marvel Universe goes after this.
Yeah, it's a big question. Hopefully we will have some answers at San Diego Comic-Con, but it's just we are now out of the end game and into a new game. Is this Monopoly? I don't know. Do you know they have an Avengers Infinity War / Endgame Monopoly set that just came out this week?
Oh, I'm guessing that game, does that also have millions of dollars that you can purchase movies with?
Probably, but it doesn't play, like, it's got weird rules. Like, you land on and build your team of Avengers rather than buy your, like, properties. And then instead of the train spots that you actually have to fight Thanos' generals. It was interesting looking.
Oh, hey, that sounds cool.
I don't like Monopoly, but I was like, I can put this on a shelf and ask people if they want to play it sometime and then tell them no as soon as I pull it out. But yeah, so we're gonna dig into what we always dig into. We're gonna way overanalyze this 3 days in, Mike. The box office residuals of Avengers Endgame. There are records that are usually held, and now they are all broken by this movie.
And they've been Hulk smashed to oblivion. I believe this film has broken every weekend record that exists. Like, we're talking preview night, first day opening weekend, the domestic worldwide. It's got them all, which is insane.
Well, I don't know about opening weekend yet. We have to wait for some totals because The Force Awakens I think has 390 million, and this only is at 350 right now, roughly. So I don't think either way, it doesn't matter. $350 million domestically, Mike, in opening weekend. Like, what do you do with that? Like, how that's huge. That is huge. Like, just to put that in perspective here, you wrote these numbers down. The closest movie to get to this in the MCU franchise was Infinity War last year. and that was at $257.
Yeah, just shy of $100 million. I mean, this is just huge. We all saw it coming for sure, but I usually don't look at box office projections before a movie comes out because I don't care what people are predicting, especially since you can just like wait around for a couple of days and get the actual numbers. But apparently, this movie has blown past even the predictions of what this film was going to do. Which is just amazing, and it makes sense. It's a part 2 of one of the biggest films ever made. Everyone's got to go see this movie.
Yeah, and I was wrong. Force Awakens held opening week, not opening weekend. So I think Endgame's gonna crack that. I mean, it's also on top of that add $860 million internationally. That puts it at a total of $1.2 billion opening weekend already. What do you do? I don't even know what, like, this number is staggering. Like, do we even have a opening weekend worldwide? Like, the closest one again was Infinity War, and guess how much Infinity War made opening weekend? Half of this. Literally half of this.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. I mean, and it also feels weird waxing poetic about money because, this is all like, going into Disney's coffers, and we all know they got enough money. But this just kind of just shows you the accomplishment of what happens when you put 11 years and 22 films into your resume. This is the type of gig that you can get now. You can get these kind of numbers and box office draw. And I mean, my theater, we just talked about it. Your theater had like 9 a.m. showings selling out. Mm-hmm. My theater had 2 a.m. in the evening showings sold out. No other film was breaking in any other box office dollars. This was just occupying every screen in the country, and it looks like worldwide also.
Yeah, I mean, this is the word zeitgeist appropriate here? Like, this is literally like what everyone is doing, everyone is seeing, everyone is talking about, and they will be for probably the next. We say, I give it a week for the normal people because, well, what do we have tonight, Mike? In 6 hours,
we have one of the bigger Game of Thrones episodes coming up.
Yeah, one of the most anticipated Game of Thrones episodes, judging by the preview. Seems to be like one of the longest television battles, but. I think it has one more big record to beat, and that is worldwide overall. And do you think Avatar sits at 2.7 billion? Do you think Endgame can double down and a little more and get that far? Do you think it can?
This is the question. At the very least, I would like to see Endgame crack number 2 because I don't think James Cameron needs the top 2 spots. I think maybe he should share number 1 and 2 with possibly another film. But if any film can do it, it's got to be this one, right? If you look at the worldwide gross rankings right now, so that is the culmination of the whole film being out its whole run. This is all the money it's made in a theater. Endgame is already at 18.
Yeah.
And it's only been out for a couple of days. So obviously movies always start to trail off after the opening weekend. So we'll have to see how much it trails off over the weeks. I think I want to see it get up there. I don't see why it can't. I really hope it could take the number 1 spot because I don't think Avatar deserves it because I think Endgame is a better film. And I think that's very I don't think that one's too hard to debate. But I think another very interesting chart that I want to talk about is the domestic gross. So that's just U.S. dollars. And this one's a little bit more interesting because Avatar's number 2, and you got Black Panther up at number 3, Infinity War at 4. So I think this one's a little bit more malleable, a little bit easier to break into because international box office there's always going to be an asterisk next to that because movies that came out a few years ago, there might not have been countries with screens playing it. You always got to play a little politics to get your film in a theater on the other side of the globe. I think China's middle class is exploding, so they're just building more and more theaters. So it's kind of one of those things that you're never really too sure what's happening over there. But the U.S. is a little bit more. We got more stats over here, so I'll be looking closely at the domestic lifetime gross also, which interestingly no domestic movie has broken $1 billion yet. Star Wars The Force Awakens is at $936 million, so it could create a brand new record of being the first to crack $1 billion in the U.S.
And well, what's also fun is that Star Wars is not an international property as much as everything else is here. Just looking at their split there, like it's almost 50-50 domestic and international. What I look at when I see this is actually the Titanic being number 2. Do you remember how long Titanic is?
Like I know it had a long run in the movie theater, but I don't remember the length of the film itself.
3 hours and 15 minutes, and a lot of people have said Endgame is too long to get those showings. Judging by its opening weekend numbers, and that Titanic is longer than it and sits at number 2, I think it still has a chance to run that money. What does this money mean in the long run? Probably nothing. They're putting coins in their coffers, if you will, Mike, to use an old phrase. But maybe they could put this back into Disney Plus, make more Marvel television shows. I don't know what their budget was for these movies. Like how expensive was it? I know they really didn't ramp up the marketing until like the last 2 weeks, but there's a lot they could do going forward. And as the success is this peak Marvel Cinematic Universe, or is this just a new plateau, so to speak, in terms of like Dragon Ball? We've now reached a new power level and we have to keep going up from here.
I think the best way to find out if this is peak Marvel is to stay subscribed to the Superhero Slate podcast, and we will be tracking all of these Marvel movies for the next few years to come, and we'll let you know if it gets any better.
Why do you gotta leave me on a cliffhanger like that? This is awful. So, did you want to talk about the comparison with the previous Avengers movie still, or no? Because we had those written down here just because.
Yeah, I mean, because right now all we have is opening weekend for Endgame, and domestically, the first Avengers opened to roughly $200 million. Ultron took a little bit of a dip opening weekend, $191 million. Infinity War jumped back up to $250, and now Endgame, we're at $350 million plus. It's just a wild ride there. I was looking through my my movie stubs before we started recording, because I like to save and treasure those stubs, and I was pulling out all of my MCU movies, looking at the ticket stubs, and I was able to find all of my Avengers stubs, which was really satisfying to kind of see them all laid out. And I wanted to give shout out and a prop to Cinemark movie theaters, because I think Cinemark has the best movie stub, which I know a lot of people aren't too concerned about when they go to see a movie, especially since a lot of people just use the QR codes like on their phones to get into a theater now. But I had a lot of movie stubs that they were already fading because they were like printed on like flimsy paper, and just the ink has just aged, and I had to like hold them up to the light to try to read the letters that still existed. But the Cinemark movie stub, it's nice. It's like thinner. It's like cardstock, actually. It's not paper. Big, like bold letters like spell out the name of the movie, and even if you can't fit the whole name of the movie, it just like clips off. So it might be Avengers Endgame, like just a G, and it's just like it. So I love those Cinemark movie stubs. So shout out to Cinemark if you want a cool movie stub for your theater going experience.
Yeah, I miss the old fashioned movie tickets, or even like the collectible movie tickets they were giving out. None of the one theaters I ever go to give out the collectible tickets, and they make me sad.
I mean,
I'm like that.
Yeah, I mean, I still buy my tickets online, but I just go to the customer service counter and be like, I'm here to pick up my tickets.
Yeah.
Swipe my card I bought it with, and they give me them.
Yeah, I do this. That's what I did today. We have a local chain called the Xscape Theaters, and they have a nice thick printed off ticket. Actually, it's in my pocket. Yeah, it's right here in my pocket. Very nice. Very, very solid. I don't like the people who tear the tickets, though. They kind of...
Oh, I get very nervous because they get all nonchalant about it. So if they're perforated, I kind of bend it back and forth to get the perforation even weaker. So I'm like, as soon as I give this teenager my ticket, it's going to ripple much easier.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a little neurotic like that. But
well, okay. I mean, you sound like a hoarder as well with your movie tickets. So, whichever way you want to look at it. But now we're out of the Endgame. We are looking forward to our next Marvel movie coming up in, 2 months? 3 months?
Yeah, soon, man.
With Spider-Man Far From Home around the corner here. And we got a first image this week looking at an unmasked Peter Parker working with an unmasked Mysterio.
Yeah, this image frightened me earlier this week because I was scrolling through my Twitter feed and I saw an official screenshot of Spider-Man, and I was like, what the hell? So I scrolled as fast as I could until I realized, wait, I think that was Mysterio on the other side of that picture. So I was like, okay, this isn't Endgame related. So I was a little nervous when I first saw this.
Yeah, there's a couple things to make out of this. It looks like there's a guy in the background with a large gun on a table.
Oh, that looks like a giant sniper rifle, possibly.
It could also, the stuff in the background, although it's out of focus, maybe Ten Rings. It looks like maybe Ten Rings garb from the Iron Man movies. Speaking of rings, Mysterio has a wedding band on.
Oh, he does.
Yep, and his suit looks like the little diamond-shaped triangle things glow. All of them glow, even the ones on his belt. So
yeah, I mean, if you just take this image for exactly what it is, do we just assume that Peter and Mysterio are going to team up and fight these kind of elementals that we've seen in the trailer? Is Mysterio more of maybe he's more of a gray character where he turns bad at the very end? Good thing pointing out that wedding ring. That's a good shot. You could already kind of imagine the story of a tragic event kills his wife, and now he's trying to save the world. No Endgame spoilers, of course, but this movie does chronologically take place after Endgame. So are they going to be dealing with ramifications of that film? How does Mysterio go into all this craziness that just happened this weekend?
Yeah. And how do they? I mean, honestly, even if you just look at Infinity War, how do they scale it back to something less world-ending, a little bit? So there's a lot to take. I mean, like I said, at a first glance, it's just a normal photo of them. Looks like they're teaming up, and rumor is that Mysterio's working with Shield to start off with. But once you look a little closer, there's some other details in here that are really fun. So I think we'll either know more later or know less later, because they do like to hide reality in front of us, like nope, this is a fake photo from another movie. And
Mysterio bends reality too.
He does. Have you had Dr. Pepper Dark Berry yet with the Spider-Man cans?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. I've not seen
the real soda.
Yeah, we talked about it. It had the Mysterio leak on it several months ago.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a flavored one though. I thought they were just slapping that onto the normal Dr. Pepper.
No, so at the normal Dr. Pepper, they have other cans with Peter Parker in different European locales, like Venice and London, and then one of the Mysterios on the cans of the Dark Berry, and they're apparently out in stores somewhere. I actually never even saw the Endgame Coke cans with the Marvels on it, which I was kind of sad. But apparently this is Dr. Pepper Dark Berry drink out there, and if we can find it, Mike, we might save it, like we do for the Far From Home podcast, and do a review on our drink. I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
I like that idea. If I can find it, we'll synergize. Yeah. For sure.
Or I'll try to send one out to you. One of the two. Well, I'll be seeing you that month anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But yeah, so the promotions from Far From Home are probably about to kick up. Most people are like, when are we going to get a trailer 2? Since it's coming out in like I said, 2 months.
Maybe next week, possibly.
I think, I said we'd get a Avengers trailer with Captain Marvel the week after Captain Marvel, and guess what we got? So I think the same thing with Spider-Man, because it's just the movie's out now, and a lot of people have seen it, so they're like, well, we can start marketing our next movie going forward. So, knock on wood. I actually got to catch a very interesting Dark Phoenix trailer this weekend on Thursday night for my Endgame show, my first one. It was actually a reflection of the entire X-Men franchise, and included clips literally from every X-Men movie.
Oh, weird.
There. And it was really, really awesome. And actually made me was like, oh, this should have been the trailer. Like, this should have been the way. I think it's not going to make the movie good, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, I'm actually a little hyped for X-Men movies, because there's so many of them, and we've had some good moments in them, even if they're all like, there are some that are very near misses.
They're just like, remember the good times? Now give me your $12.
Yeah. So they actually did that, and then they added a little bit of dark, like, oh, this is the end of an era, like, this is the end of everything. And they even had like the original Jean Grey and like scenes from like X2, X1, X2, X3, the 3 Wolverine movies, the new ones. And it ended, and then they actually played the most recent Dark Phoenix trailer immediately after it, and I'm like, Oh, you ruined it for me. You should have just left it on the one with the nostalgia factor. And I don't know if that's even hit the internet yet. I didn't do a Google, but I think that was actually really cool to see that trailer. However, in other news that does not excite me for this film, the ending was apparently supposed to be in space, and then when they went back and redid all those reshoots several months ago, they changed it to that military train thing we're seeing.
I wonder if possibly that space ending was a little bit more open-ended, trying to open up the X-Men franchise to a broader universe, to keep the movies ongoing. But now Disney owns it, and they're like, nope,
well,
wrap this up.
Well, that was well before the purchase. So, I mean, they filmed it late last year. I don't like Simon Kinberg, and I don't think he needed to do Dark Phoenix again, about 10 years after the other one, which was a travesty to begin with in and of itself. So, will it save the movie? Probably not. Will we be doing a review episode, Mike? Yeah, we will. I mean, if we made it through Fantastic Four in 2014 or 2015, we can live through Dark Phoenix.
Oh, yeah. I was looking through my movie stubs, and I saw the Fantastic Four one, and I was just like, really? I kept this one? Okay.
Yeah, I remember... We just started recording. That was our first year doing this, and we were watching the trailers, and they started changing the colors of the negative zone in the trailers. And you're like, is it green? Is it orange? What's going on here? Oh God, I don't feel confident in this movie anymore.
Should have been our first sign, Chris.
Yeah, should have been our first sign. But yeah, we live, we learn, and Fox is, no matter how hard they tried to ruin and kill the Fantastic Four after 3 to 4 failed movie attempts, we finally got him back in Marvel. So we might. Do you think we're going to get any X-Men announcements at San Diego this year?
I mean, it just really depends, because we know Marvel's going to be at Comic-Con more than likely. Are they going to be doing a big slate announcement? I would hope so, because that's the audience you should be doing it for. They're the ones that are really going to appreciate it. Obviously, they'll bring actually, no, because they won't even be bringing Spider-Man out on stage, because that movie will already be out. Yeah. So yeah, it would just 100% be reveals. So. At the least, I could see them maybe saying we are developing X-Men stuff, but we don't have anything to show you.
Yeah, the other thing we have is actually D23 this year is in August, late August. So we don't even have a D23 before we get to Comic-Con. So that's going to be a big thing, and see what happens or doesn't happen at the end of it. I'm excited a little bit. Today, before I saw my movie, when they're doing those stupid little, here's your movie minutes with whatever host they have that day, they played a teaser for the Pennyworth series on Epix, and
the crowd went wild.
Yeah, they did. I didn't even catch what I didn't even know what I was watching until I said the end. Like, oh, my name's Thomas Wayne, and I'm like, oh, is this Pennyworth? Is this that show about Alfred? I keep calling it Alfred. I don't call it Pennyworth. So yeah, you watched it. What do you think?
Looks like we got Batman's dad showing up, giving Alfred some missions to do.
Well, that was like the last 5 seconds of this 30 seconds. The rest of it was that like a printing press running newspapers, or with Gotham and like a little bird symbol the rest of the time.
I just who wants to watch this? I don't understand. This just makes me reflect on Gotham, whose series finale was also on Thursday night, and I'm just like, oh, let's pour one out and give a moment of silence for Gotham, who had to premiere their last episode ever on the night that Endgame came out. So we can say that we are not very excited for Pennyworth very safely.
Yeah. I'd be more excited for a Jarvis show from Marvel, to be honest, than this, taking the one from Agent Carter and going forward.
A wormhole opens up, and then we get a Jarvis and Alfred team up, and they talk about life of being a butler and kicking ass.
Well, what's funny is Teen Titans Go literally made fun of this idea in their movie trailers, like the man behind Batman, and it was like Alfred, and he's like,
oh yeah, because Robin was mad because he wasn't getting his own movie, but everybody else was
like Batman, and then his best friend the car from Batman, and Alfred, and like Alfred, like he was just like cleaning, like hitting people with brooms and cleaning materials, and I'm like, that's why I don't know. I don't have any trust in this show. I mean, hell, we could be wrong. I mean, Krypton turned out good. Do we know what Epix has the budget or even an interest in this stuff, or are they just doing it because, hey, it's the cool thing to do right now, and we need viewers?
It's a comic book thing. It's the only thing we could afford.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's probably what, like, how close can we get to Batman? And they like slide some change across the table, and they're like, we'll give you a very young Alfred, but you can't call him Alfred. You have to call him by his last name.
And he has to be overseas. He can't be in the United States. Don't get him anywhere near Gotham.
You know what the value of this character's name is? It's worth pennies. Because he's Pennyworth.
Chris.
You set yourself up for that. Game of Thrones is tonight. We mentioned that earlier. We always wait. I saw an article before we jumped on. People are anxiously awaiting for the leaks of these episodes to watch them early. Like a couple hours early. I know I would be if I didn't have other things to do. So people are like, come on, hurry up and leak these episodes so we can watch them. But we know they've been working on like 5 spin-offs for this show, right? Like, what do you do when your biggest show actually is coming to an end, like a finite end?
Yeah, and you were just purchased by a giant telemobile conglomerate, AT&T, and they want to make sure they keep getting money out of you.
Yeah, so what do? You hire people to write potential spin-offs. It sounds like a Star Wars scenario all over again.
Yeah.
To be completely honest. And one of those spin-offs was headed and written by Bryan Cogman and George R.R. Martin himself. We don't know the details of the spin-off, but Cogman has written a lot of the current episodes in Game of Thrones, like a lot of the episodes in the Game of Thrones series. So he's had a lot of experience working with these characters and working in this world. HBO has decided not to proceed with that show by Cogman and Martin, but there are 4 other ones remaining. And I think one of them started filming or is filming like right now.
I mean, as much as I like Game of Thrones, I think once this finale is over and I finally get closure on all of these characters that I've been watching for years now, I'm not really looking forward to these spinoffs that much. I don't think I need like prequel backstories or anything. If they did a series maybe of continuing on in the future, that might be kind of fun. That might be kind of interesting. But I think HBO needs to concentrate on their next big thing. Give me another like fantasy series. Give me something extremely nerdy that you pour a lot of money into, and I hope it works out. Let's just get the next Game of Thrones, but it's just not what Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones could exist if they went to a different continent and they didn't worry about hierarchies, like essentially trying to get the Iron Throne, but like they could exist in the same world and like they could reference other continents maybe. That's one way I could be like, okay, you could get me on board a little bit better, but like, so we don't need a prequel because they're just going to shuffle things around where they need them to be. How convenient for them later on. And they don't need to be, I think the future, like, that would just be like all this stuff was for nothing. So,
one thing I've always wanted to see, this will definitely not happen. This is just a dream I've always had, of where we would get a sequel to a fantasy series in the far, 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 far future. So basically, what is present day Westeros like, where people have smartphones and cars and stuff like that, and then like all of this stuff is just so legacy, maybe even in Game of Thrones yourself, when you're watching it, the people who exist in the current time aren't even sure if magic exists because they haven't seen it. People aren't sure if dragons are real, but hey, they end up showing up. So it's just really funny. It'd be like an experiment, almost like a what if comic book.
So like you're pitching the end of Battlestar Galactica to us.
I haven't seen Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, so that's probably a reason why. But also, what's interesting about Battlestar Galactica is the new series, like the one in like the mid-2000s, is kind of like a soft reboot, soft sequel to the original one from the 70s and 80s. So like there was like a war between the humans and these robots, and then there wasn't a war, and that's where this one picks up. But like it still has, it's like got the same characters and the same stuff. Like I don't know, it's interesting. So yeah, they could do something like that.
I mean, I guess they've kind of also done that in Star Trek, where they've had hundreds of years separated between these different series, but it's just always a crew on a spaceship. It's pretty much the same show, just in a different time and a different space. So yeah, I just really want to see like some dude that's like the great nephew of Jon Snow, and he just like doesn't know it, and maybe one day he's just cleaning out a garage and finds like his like sword or something. It's such a dumb idea, but it would just be funny if like HBO would just throw a little bit of money at that and just let somebody get really weird with it.
I don't want to get weird. You can keep it. Anyway, any other Game of Thrones pitches you want to make on the show while people are listening and writing them down and trying to sell them behind your back?
Nope, that's it. If you want any more, you're going to have to DM me and pay me.
Yeah. He charges by the minute, and it's expensive.
And I ramble, so it's a lot of minutes.
Or does he? You wouldn't believe how long it takes to get these shows started every week, does it? That's both of us. Two other trailers we got this week. I actually didn't get to see either of these in the theaters, Mike, and it's just mind-blowing. Like, I didn't. But I think we talked about this one. This is Men in Black International, has a trailer number 2, which I don't think was supposed to release this week, because you found a version that has no sound other than just the dialogue in it.
Yeah, they uploaded it without the music track, which is really, really hilarious, because it totally changes the tone. It really makes you appreciate sound design, that's for sure, of how much it sells you and hits you with an emotional punch in a trailer. So I don't know. I think like it's linked somewhere on Streamable. You could probably just search Men in Black International trailer, no audio, and you could find it. But yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, and then this new one, like, I'm gonna see this movie because it's got the stars of Thor Ragnarok in it together, looking like they're having some fun. And Men in Black needs a good reboot. The last one, like, 2 was awful, 3 wasn't bad, but like I want some fun, interesting stuff, and like update Men in Black for the modern era. Because wasn't the first one in the late 90s? 97?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was definitely.
90s. I mean, I'm going to look up that Will Smith song where he talked about the Men in Black in his rap song and look that up. So, it looks like Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson just having a fun time. I got Liam Neeson and I can't think of her name, the actress, Emma Thompson in there as well.
Tessa Thompson?
Emma Thompson, I think, is the British lady.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Tessa Thompson. I was thinking who is not British, by the way. We just assume so.
Yeah, you thought you. Yeah, I think my 2 biggest takeaways from the trailer was I was happy to see the little guy who's voiced by Kumail Nanjiani. I thought he was maybe just going to be in a one-off scene, but it looks like he goes on.
He's on the poster, isn't he? The new poster too.
So I'm glad he's in a little bit more, and I like this plot idea of Tessa Thompson. She knows the Men in Black exist because they didn't erase her memory, and then just through sheer force of will, she finds them. Because that reminds me a little bit of the villain from Shazam, how he kind of clawed his way to finding the wizard. So I was like, yeah, I kind of like that kind of plot idea. So
it's also a play on the original. She recruits herself rather than someone recruiting her. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of fun to have here.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not putting too much stake in it. I don't have a whole lot of faith in the franchise, so I'm not too worried.
Yeah, really. I think this is going to be even if it's mid-level, I think we can still turn off and have fun with these actors in it. So that'll be good. And and then our next trailer, I think we might be split down the middle on our opinions here, Mike, because I think this is kind of interesting. Will Smith, not in Men in Black, doing one called Gemini Man with Ang Lee directing here, and it looks to be like a more action-packed Looper, maybe, is what I'm getting out of this. What do you think?
This movie, it seemed like I was watching a trailer for a film that came out in the early 2000s, because it's a Will Smith vehicle for sure. Ang Lee is attached to it, so I was like, okay, I really feel like I'm in the 2000s now. I think what was more interesting to me is it looks like studios outside of Warner Brothers and Disney can afford the de-aging technology now, because there is a clone of Will Smith in this film that is younger, the Will Smith that we grew up with, a young man, if
he's
you will.
A fresh prince, if you will, looking at Will Smith.
very fresh, and it looks like they're trying to kill each other. I feel like I can already predict everything that happens in this movie. Like, they're trying to kill each other, but then the clone gets mad that he's being controlled, and then they team up to go fight the organization that created them to begin with. And I don't know. It's I don't care.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is in this movie, and I didn't see her in the trailer. That much I know. But I also want to point out the de-aging technology that they use in Marvel has been around for about 15 to 20 years and has not changed that much, to be completely honest with you. But apparently the cost to do it has probably gone down.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten really good at it.
Snapchat filters that do that, man. Like they probably shot this movie on a Snapchat filter for Will Smith. But this movie it seems interesting. There's obvious. I don't think it's. Is it time? I think there's a twist we're not seeing, and I'm interested to see is it time travel? Is this the same Will Smith from a different age? They say he's a clone, but maybe he's not. I don't know. There's a bunch going on here. And I really want to see how this plays out. Now, will I rush to the theaters to watch it? Depends on the reviews, but I think it was written by actually one of the showrunners of Game of Thrones, David Benioff. So, and
it's also produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, which I was like, Jerry Bruckheimer, Ang Lee. I feel like this is.
I thought Bruckheimer was with Disney. Is he moving over to Paramount now?
I think this is a Skydance film. So this feels like a big question mark.
This is a weird thing here. But Skydance has been doing all the good Mission Impossibles lately. I'll give them that.
Yeah, that's true. They can pull off a good MI movie.
Yeah, a good spy thriller. I mean, isn't that what they're known for? Didn't they do like Jack Reacher and G.I. Joe? Isn't this Tom Cruise's vehicle? Don't they just put him in movies now? But we're out of our league talking about this movie. I thought it looked like an interesting concept. It might end up being more like Jet Li's The One, where he has to go kill a bunch of clones of himself to get all the power. You ever watch that movie?
It's been a while. I've actually kind of had a desire to rewatch that film for a really long time now. So maybe we'll see if it still holds up.
I bet it's in a red box. It's not. It's not a red box. You're gonna have to digitally rent that one. So, yeah. That's it. That's our news for the week, Mike. We managed to scrape by talking about a lot of Endgame stuff. Really.
The biggest nerd weekend, 11 years in the making. Man, I went back and I looked up what our very first spoiler cast ever was on the podcast, and it was Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So,
God, I wouldn't wish that on anyone to go back and listen to that.
we've grown over these years. That's
Lord, were we just winging it? Because that was like, we've been doing the show about 4 or 5 months by that point, and that was our first full review episode, because we did like mini reviews in the regular show. So I'm glad we have a whole channel. We actually have a whole if you search Superhero Slate reviews, you can subscribe just to our reviews, or if you have people who don't want to listen to that but want to listen to our movie reviews, you can share that with people. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but we have that. On that note, since we're here in the end, Mike, we are giving out a couple things here. The first thing we're going to be giving out over the next couple weeks is a custom 3D printed set of Avengers drink coasters, printed by my friend Derek on his own 3D printer.
Whoa, DIY Etsy style.
Yeah, he does. He sells a lot of stuff for tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons, Catan. He does the custom coasters. He has Game of Thrones sets you can buy. He's giving an Avengers set to the show to give out. I've not worked out how to do this. I literally met with him yesterday to take the photos of these things. So we've not worked out how to win yet, but we're going to be giving them out in the next couple weeks before the end of the month. So
well, that sounds super rad.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And then probably a couple pop vinyls, because I got some pop vinyls to give away. So we're going to work on that. It's probably going to be Avengers related. I don't know yet. We'll work on that. But I mean, I'm going to put his website in here so you can go take a look at those, and I'm going to include that. Like, we'll probably make a social post on this one. So his website is boardgameboss.com.
Ooh, good domain name.
He can do custom 3D prints. You saw my Mjolnir, right? My 3D printed Mjolnir?
I think so.
Yeah, it's like life size, right here beside me. He printed that off as well. So he can do cosplay items if you need that for those ideas. But anyway, we're going to be giving out some Avengers coasters and more. But Mike, if people don't know what you're up to, what you're doing, when you're going to go see Avengers again, where they can find you at?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram and Twitter, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. I actually entered a t-shirt design contest for one of my favorite 90s Nickelodeon TV shows, Invader Zim. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it might be early 2000s. I don't remember. I definitely watched it growing up, but I designed a really cool t-shirt, and I entered it in a contest, and if you wanna take a look at that and vote for it, I got links on all of my social media, so you can go check it out.
Please click his link, because when I clicked it, it went away, and I had scrolled for 45 minutes and still didn't find that design.
Oh, yeah. The website itself that runs this contest is atrocious. It's just bad. I can't believe they're using this structure to hold contests over and over again for all of these different properties. But even if you can't manage to vote, I think they're also kind of ranking stuff based on views, because not everybody, wants to enter in their email address to vote for something. So just viewing it might be enough to help me out. So I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. It's fun design. Anything else you want to pitch?
No, that's it. That's me. Chris, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Valdan, Valdan, or Instagram, Valdan87. You can also have to Comic UI. If people want to listen to our review episode or find more about our whatever we're doing on Superhero Slate, because I think we've got a really big summer coming up, where can people find us at?
Well, the best place to go is superheroslate.com. That is where you can find our awesome show notes. So if we're talking about movie trailers on the show and you don't want to go search for them for yourself, just hit up the show notes at superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. We want to know what you thought of Endgame. We want to know what you think of Gemini Man even. So reach out to us. We love hearing from you on Twitter, on YouTube. You can send us an email directly. I've seen Endgame now, so now I'm not worried about spoilers. So you can send me whatever you want.
Send them all the spoilers.
We love our super fans, and if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you have to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be back next week. And I believe our next review is going to be Detective Pikachu, so I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's in a couple weeks. That's coming up. I'm very excited, hopefully, to shake things up a little bit. So I agree. So I guess we will catch you guys for our regular scheduled news episode next week.
All right, adios.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
I keep ruining things that could possibly pad out our time.
That's
here,
fine.
So
We just got to make sure we don't say anything on the show about the movie.